Okay, so I'm going to talk about basically leveraging educational technology for both career and academic success. And I use academic in kind of a broad sense. So while I am at an institution of higher education, this is something that is applicable across all areas of adult education. Um, so I'm going to give you a little brief introduction, some background data, talking about what are some of the problems that we've identified, and then some of the solutions to solve those. So a little background on myself. I've been in education for over 20 years. I actually started out in the realm of math and science. I'm a certified math teacher. And then early on in my career, I ended up working in an area where we had a large population of non-native English speakers. And I was introduced to the world of ESL and really fell in love with working with those students. And when I got my master's degree, I specialized in English as a second language. And in 2019, I got my certification in developing online teaching programs, which I had no idea how timely that was. Um, but I say all this to say that I'm able to really see the unique intersection between content learning and language learning. So some of the things that we see um, is the rapid growth in the United States of English language learners. That by 2025, which is not that far away, 1 in 4 K to 12 students and 20% of the workforce are projected to be English language learners. And this is particularly true in post-secondary education, as well as integrating international students. So as I mentioned, I'm the Director of Training and Certification at Bucks County Community College. So where is Bucks County? If you're not familiar, we are in Pennsylvania. That green dot on the screen is Philadelphia, and then we are the red county there. And the reason I mention this is to give you some context as to the fact that we're right outside of an urban area, so we have a large immigrant population. What's unique about our population is who our students are. So we have a very large Ukrainian population. Pennsylvania as a state is sixth in the nation, and by percentage, we are second. And then within Pennsylvania, Bucks County actually has the largest percentage of Ukrainian individuals, so higher than Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So I know a lot of individuals, you are working with native Spanish speakers. We actually, Spanish is our fifth language, where Russian, Ukrainian, Uzbek, and Georgian are actually more common in our community. And I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the growth that our program has seen. Fall 2020 was a bit artificially low because of the pandemic, but we bounced back when fall 2021, and then we've seen quite a lot of growth over the last 2 years. So this is where we really started to run into some barriers to education. So looking at what are some of the linguistic issues and what are some of the logistic issues that students are facing. So things like course content. So we all know that there's academic vocabulary, there is jargon and specific terminology that goes into every different area of study. And even as native English speakers, we have to learn all of that. And then if we add on the additional layer of being a second language learner, that makes it that much more challenging. Paperwork, so things like applications to the college, scholarship applications, FAFSA, all of that is once again can be challenging if the individual is not familiar with our higher education system in the United States, and if they or their family members are English language learners, that once again can be very challenging for them. And then things like childcare and degrees. So childcare is something that we often see. We have a lot of individuals that are going to college that have young children, and they're trying to figure out how they can find childcare for their kids. And especially if they are limited English proficient and their children may or may not speak English, they're more apt to try to find a childcare agency within their community, which obviously limits the options that they have. Degrees and transcripts is another barrier. individuals going into higher education need a GED or high school transcript. And because of things like natural disasters and political unrest, some of our students' transcripts are just not possible. And then transportation, our transportation system in the United States, especially outside of urban areas, is once again another barrier. And then course scheduling. So these individuals that have children and are trying to balance a work schedule and figuring all of this out. And we see some similar issues within the realm of employment. So instead of the course content, it's training materials, it's industry specific terminology, it's interfacing with their supervisors, it's filling out HR paperwork and safety documentation, it's tools and terminology that they are using in the workplace. And once again, the childcare issue comes up, as well as the degrees and transcripts. Certain jobs require a certain degree, and they need to be able to prove that they have that degree in order to get that. And I know Dr. Brown talked a little bit about trying to match up skills versus just degrees for jobs, which is really going a long way, I think, to helping our students and reduce that barrier. And transportation and work schedules are also sometimes challenging for our students. I like to share this because this really underscores just the impact of language in the workplace. That 25% of all job-related accidents have some sort of language barrier component to them. And this comes directly from OSHA. So this really talks about just how important it is to address that in the workplace. So we talked about all the problems, but there actually are a lot of great opportunities here. So in higher education, for those that are in higher education, you know about the enrollment cliff that is coming. And for those that don't, there is a projected drop off in enrollment. We just don't have the number of high school students that we did 20 years ago. So in that, we just talked about how the English language population is increasing. And so this is a real opportunity to kind of mitigate that enrollment cliff. To be able to reach diverse populations, and as a community college, this is something that is near and dear to our heart, and engaging communities. So the surrounding community, as well as, you know, for us, the Georgian community and the Ukrainian community, and once again is central to the mission for us as a community college. Looking at the workforce, being able to produce bilingual workers. So in the healthcare realm, you're able to have somebody that can interface with other healthcare staff and the patients in more than just English, and highly skilled workers. So these individuals, a lot of them bring with them a wealth of knowledge from their home countries. And if we're able to add in that language piece and reduce that barrier, they have the skills to do the jobs that we're trying to fill. And those employment gaps, I know workers, employers are really concerned about the baby boomers that are retiring and all of the employment gaps that are projected. And so this is one way to address that. So the plan really is in higher education is to make sure that you have all of the supports in place for English language learners, that you have accessible services and paperwork. Maybe the paperwork is offered in more than one language. There are instructional videos. Maybe they have closed captioning or they have subtitles in their native language, and then providing language support to the students throughout their journey. So whether it's, you know, having a prerequisite course that they need, but then also having the support ongoing throughout their time in their educational experience. And then in the workforce, something similar, having accessible materials, trainings. Once again, if training materials can be provided in more than one language or subtitles. And one of the other things that is interesting to consider is the proficiency level at which someone needs to be successful in a job. And that could be different for every single job in a company, and really assessing what that is so that you know that you can get your employees to that level that they are successful in their career. and then looking at what accommodations may need to be made as the workforce diversifies, if there are cultural or religious accommodations that need to be considered. So the solutions here really are to eliminate those barriers. So things like online and hybrid classes, flexible scheduling, and language support really reduce all of those issues that we were talking about with the transportation, the childcare, and the scheduling, and then providing contextualized English. So whether that's something that's more on the academic front, or whether it's more something on the work front, or a blend of the two, making sure that that really applies to the area in which they're studying or working, and then short-term training programs. A lot of our students don't have the luxury of going to a 4-year school, or at least not initially. So they need something that is an 8-week or a 12-week training program that is then employable skills that then they can stack on credentials. So they can become employed, and their employer may pay for them to go back and get a certification or a degree. So let me give you an example of a program that we actually developed. So this was developed in response to a need. So the director of our practical nursing program actually approached me because they were seeing an increased number of second language learners in their practical nursing program, and some of the students were really struggling, and they could tell that there was definitely a language component to the reason that they were struggling. So we developed this program. We used the NGen platform, and it worked beautifully. So what we did was we were able to go through their extensive catalog and really select the courses and the programs that align with our program, so that they really built an on-ramp to our nursing program. So we made this a 40-hour 4-week course. We actually embedded 2 instructors into the course. We had a nursing instructor as well as an English instructor, and they talked to the students depending on whether it was more of a content question or more of a language use question. And they have the asynchronous modules. The students are able to complete them on their own schedule. But having the instructors embedded in this served 2 purposes. One, it kept the students accountable because they knew people were checking to see what they were doing, but it also ensured the student success. If a student, for example, got a 60% on one of the lessons, they were able to schedule a time to meet with that student and really discuss what it is that they understood, or where their challenges were. And they're even able to go back in and reassign lessons so that the student can reinforce those skills. Once they completed that, they entered into the nursing program. And one of the important components is this concurrent supportive services for the students. We happen to have a phenomenal academic success center, which is our tutoring center at the college. And this really provides, they do embedded tutors in the classes. Students can schedule one-on-one tutoring sessions, or even able to schedule one every day if they want. And we also have conversation groups that they can join, so to continue to practice their English and feel more comfortable with that. So this is all part of the program as they move through it. So that is just one example of what we have offered. And we are looking to expand this to other programs, other pathways. We're building a dental assisting for non-native English speakers and a pharmacy technician for non-native English speakers. And we're really hoping that this is something that we can continue to expand, because the need is really there. And so I think the next steps for all of you, if you're interested in this, is to really do a needs assessment, to really assess what community you're serving or interested in serving, what their needs are, and the employers, if there are certain pain points that the employers are having, or gaps. And if they're, low skilled or middle skilled jobs, what is it that they're having trouble filling? And then designing a program that really meets those needs. And maybe it looks like what we designed, maybe it doesn't. Every, place is a little bit different. But I think also it's important to engage with external organizations and agencies within your community, We have a great partnership with different entities at our county level, as well as some agencies and nonprofits that really help to provide our students with comprehensive services so that they are successful and we're reducing those barriers.